Feuza and I met through social media,
Right.
I guess 5 or 6 years ago. She and I both interned with Sarah Barlow in Nashville, Tennessee. We weren't at the same internship. We were just a couple weeks apart, I think.
Yeah.
So through that, we connected, and we've been following each other, and it's been neat to see you grow and your niche grow into what you love and you're passionate and you're here to speak about today.
Yes.
So tell us what your niche is and how maybe you landed in that.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity, and it's just great to chat with other creatives, and it's been awesome watching your growth as well. It feels like a decade ago, 5-6 years ago, when we interned with Sarah. So awesome work, congrats on that. My niche is actually SEO, but it's not really technical SEO. Sometimes I call it ghetto SEO because it's kind of like, half done, but it still works. So I landed in the beginning of my career. My kids were really little. I really didn't have money to invest in marketing. And I'm like, okay, I maxed out my niche market at the time. How can I get new clients? And somebody kind of introduced me to some photographers who blogged and gave great advice. And that's kind of like my first introduction to social media. And then I got really into Twitter. I used Twitter to really connect with other vendors because my kids were so little and I couldn't go to all these networking events. So I would go to the event and then make sure I followed them on Twitter and continue the conversation that way. About 2 years into that, someone right after WPPI introduced me to SEO, and I had heard of it like thrown around, and you kind of just, sometimes people will just like pretend you know exactly what it is, but because you don't want to sound dumb. But basically this photographer took some time and shared with me that there were things that he did on his blog and website for him to be found, and it was actually via a venue. He was a wedding photographer, and there was a venue he liked to photograph at, and he showed me by adding text related to that venue that he could be found. And I was intrigued. I like fell in love. It was like love at first sight. I was like, what? There's things that I could do on my website and blog, and then that will help me be found in Google. I'm in. But the problem that then I encountered was it was really technical, and I'm the most non-technical person in the world, I swear.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm like what? Like whenever people talk about HTML and coding, and actually Google Analytics is the class I dread because I'm like so not that person.
Right.
And I felt like SEO was very man's world, and it was very, almost like a group of old country club men. And here's this Brazilian crazy chick trying to get into it. So I had a little bit of resistance, but I just really was intrigued by the topic. So I took every webinar, free webinar, at the time that I could get on, and I read, and just started putting things into practice. So I kind of filtered the information, which was way too technical above my head. And I'm like, okay, what can I put into action and get results? And then I started seeing results, and that's kind of when the magic happened. And then probably after a year and a half or so, when the Facebook groups really started coming into fruition, a lot of people would have SEO questions, and then some friends would just start tagging me, and I would start answering them, and people are like, oh my God, you really should give a class, or, Feuza's the SEO expert, and all of a sudden I started becoming an expert. I was like, oh, really, I am? But what people really liked is that I explained it in layman's terms, and it was easier to understand and put into action, because at the end of the day, people don't want to learn SEO. Business owners don't want to learn SEO. They want to get found, and they want new clients. So that is our true goal. Like, yes, you could be on the #1 page of Google, but if you're not booking, what's the point? So it's really only, half the battle. So I created an SEO bootcamp, which was an online class, and I've had over 100 students now who have gone through the program. And now I'm taking the program for like an on-demand kind of live action. And I also host a group on Google+, which is totally free to join. You have to be a photographer. I get a lot of SEO marketeers trying to join the group every single day.
Let me insert really quick. I am a part of that SEO group on Google+, and we've got great information, and it's just a good resource for others that are in the same boat, posting questions. She gives us challenges every, couple of weeks?
Yeah.
So it kind of keeps you on your toes, keeps you on, the SEO in front of the forefront of your mind as a business owner and a photographer, to keep that going and be proactive with it. Before we go any further, Feuza, will you just give us like a quick run through of exactly what SEO is for those that maybe this is a totally new venture in their business?
Okay, awesome. So SEO is an abbreviation, and the funny thing is, I taught a class in Brazil, and they call it SEO. They pronounce out the word, but it's really an abbreviation. That's why we say SEO, and it stands for Search Engine Optimization. So search engines are like Google, Bing, Yahoo, even YouTube is a search engine. Wherever you can go on the web and search for something is considered a search engine. Optimization means a boost. So let's say I needed to go on a trip and I see that my tires are not doing so well. I go to the gas station and I optimize them, so I give them a boost. So search engine optimization means that there's certain things that you could do for your blog, website, and even social media, anything you have online, that there's changes you can make in order to help the search engines actually find you for related terms that relate to your business or the kind of work that you do. So let's say you've had a blog and a website, but you've never even looked at that part or the back end or even the front end, then there's room for things that you can do in order for you to be found online.
Awesome. That kind of gives a jump start to those that may be totally new with, with their blog or their website or even, like you said, their social media.
Right.
Awesome. Good. I know I've talked to several photographers over the last several months, and they ask me, what is SEO? So it's something that I think is still foreign to some new photographers, but it's so vital. It really is. And like you said, just using an everyday SEO language. It's not the HTML. It's not the coding. It doesn't have to be over the top of our heads. It can be simplified. Yeah. So with that being said, let's say we've met someone brand new to a blog, to a website. What would be one of the first things you would suggest them to do as far as optimizing their website and blog?
Sure. Okay. So I always say this. So let's say I call it kind of like building your home online. And we really need, in order to build a house, you really need what? A strong foundation. And the number one thing to understand about SEO is that it's all about text. So text will be our foundation because search engines like Google, they don't see photos or videos. So sometimes there'll be photographers with the most kick butt, gorgeous, stunning visuals on their website, but they lack text. So when the search engines, or they call them the Google bots, like robots, when they come in to scan your website, there's nothing to see because you don't have text. So if you're brand new to SEO, I assume a lot of the business owners want to get found locally, unless you're a destination wedding photographer. But even that, if you're a destination wedding photographer, you want to shoot at those destinations, so you want to rank for those destinations. So the number one thing that I recommend everyone to do is write down the kind of work you do. So if you're a wedding and senior photographer, or if you're just a boudoir photographer or just family photographer. So what kind of work do you do? Where are you based out of? And which areas do you serve? So let's say, I'm based in Myrtle Beach, but most of my weddings are in Pawleys Island, which is about 40 minutes away. So I want to make sure I want to list that. So I recommend you adding those few sentences to, if you can, every page of your website, small text on the bottom. And I know, it doesn't sound sexy, it doesn't sound like it's going to flow with the design, or at least put it in 3 pages, in your home page, your about page, and your contact page. So many photographers make this huge mistake of not listing where they're actually from, and that's important. That's important for the person visiting your website to make sure that you are local, or you are where they want to get married or have their session. And also, really,
so many photographers. Sorry, I'm interrupting. So many photographers, I go to their website, their blog, and I'm like, I wonder where they're from. And I still can't to this day figure out where they're from or where they're shooting and what location they're at. So you're right. That's vital just to have, even just for a up-and-coming client that might be interested.
Right. And we can't assume just by adding our phone number or area code that people are going to know. So that's another thing I've seen, too. People think that maybe, they're going to magically guess where you're from by putting that area code in there. But one state can have various area codes. So make sure you're putting, your information. Now, if you have a commercial space, you're really in an advantage. So if you're a business owner with a commercial space, then you can put your actual full address on there, which is great. And you want to put it on as many pages as you can, and not just, you know, on the contact page or the home page. So it's really important because Google's always trying to identify where you're located, and also the people that are searching online that they're gonna, you know, connect you to, the IP. So Google has all this information and they can relate, but it's really important that you put that text in there.
All right, good. So one of the first things is just making sure that, like you said, on at least 3 of the pages, you're putting your keywords, might you say. You want to define keywords really quick?
Sure. Okay. So keywords is a SEO term thrown out a lot. So, and it's kind of because it is the basis of the foundation for our house on the web. So keywords refers to one word, 2 words, or a set of words that you want to be found for. So we could almost brainstorm, you know, and do a little cloud thing. So what am I? I'm a wedding photographer. So wedding could be one keyword. Wedding photographer could be a keyword. And I could expand on that, right? I could be like Myrtle Beach wedding photographer, or photographers in Myrtle Beach. That whole thing can be one keyword, or each word can be a keyword. So it's just really a set of words that relate to the kind of things that you do and how you want to be found. So I guess a step number 2 is start writing your list of keywords. So open, you know, a file on Google Drive and then just list and kind of answer those questions. What do I do? But think outside the box a little bit. If you're a wedding photographer, you don't just do weddings. You do engagement photography. Maybe you do the rehearsal dinner. Maybe you actually do trash the dress and other, you know, formals, you know, depending where you live. Like in Utah, they do a lot of, I forgot the word, groomals. The couples actually see each other before. In the South, they do the bridal portraits. So it's going to change, you know, depending where you live. So if you live in Canada, that might be a little bit different in terms of the actual, you know, terms you're using. Sure. But start a list with that, and also list as far as the areas you serve and location. One thing that's really important to know is like, how do locals call your town or the place you live versus someone from the outside. So for example, if you live in Atlanta, you probably say Atlanta, but if you told someone from Atlanta where you live, you might be very specific, and it might be East Atlanta or maybe a subdivision. You know, like here, I live in the Carolina Forest. It's a subdivision. So if I meet someone from Myrtle Beach and they ask, where do you live? I say Carolina Forest. So keep that in mind. So, but if someone from out of state asked me where I live, I would just say Myrtle Beach. So you list all those things. Is your state known for its county? You know, Manhattan, you have New York, Manhattan, the Big Apple. So there's other names to describe your location. So all those things go into your keyword list.
Awesome. Now, as far as keywording, I've seen a lot of mistakes on photographers' part, and I'm guilty. I'll raise my hand. We as photographers think it's cool to use the term e-session for an engagement session, or something of our photography terms. Well, the average person doesn't know to type in e-session. Do you think that hinders photographers?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And I have a little guide which just talks about the mistakes photographers make, and that is like number 1. That is also with the text and copy of people's websites where they don't realize, because I talk to photographers every day. I'm in photography groups, so we think it's common language. Or for example, even photographers know how to click on websites, but like your regular person looking for a photographer for the first time, they're not going to know. You really have to guide them and tell them. That's why I kind of say your website needs to go through the, you know, mother-in-law test or mom test. If she could get through it and complete the action of contacting you, you're good. If she has an issue or an 8-year-old has an issue, there's things you need to change on your website, because you have to make it really easy for people to contact you. So one thing you can do if you feel like you're guilty of that is actually go back 5 blog posts and see if you're missing the word photos and pictures or photography. And I'll bet you there'll be lots of blog posts where you're just saying senior session or engagement or the word even portrait. The word portrait is a little bit more common, but you know, you'd be surprised. A lot of people, for example, one thing I found while searching keywords for newborn photographers is that people don't look for newborn photographers. They actually insert the word baby. So it's baby newborn photographers and newborn baby picture.
Interesting.
So you have to think like the client. So you can survey your client, your audience. Okay, if you guys were going to search for this, what would you do?
Right.
And then see what terms people are really using. And another tip for you to find out what terms people are using is when you start typing in Google, it actually does Google Suggest. So if I start typing engagement and then just put PHO, there's going to be a little list that it opens up. That list, and you can take that list and add it to your keywords because that is what people are searching for. So that's another way to find out what people are using. And I always find, for example, maternity photographers, people look for pregnancy pictures. So you have to really think like the client and stop thinking like the photographer, because at the end of the day, you're trying to reach that person and not a fellow photographer for the most part.
Right, and that can be hard for us to get that hat off and be the client, potential client, looking for someone that doesn't even for someone that doesn't even know the lingo. So I think that's very vital. Like I said, I've raised my hand. I'm guilty of that in the past, thinking just being unique, being creative, when in reality it's hurting us.
Yeah. So for example, like I did a class on the senior style guide in their forum, and I always say, remember to put the word high school, right? Like, don't just do senior photos or senior photographer or senior portraits. Like, moms are not looking for senior portraits. Neither are the teens.
Right.
So, they use words even like pics, pictures, ideas, inspiration. So think outside the box. Think like, I have a saying that I want to be found before people even know they need me. So if they're starting to think about hiring a photographer for whatever service I offer, I want to come up. I want to come up in Google Images. I want my blog posts to come up. I want my Pinterest board to come up. So start thinking. People will actually research a type of photo session before they even contact a photographer. So you want to be that resource. You want to show up there as much as possible.
Good tip there. While you're speaking about it, I know we've mentioned it earlier about SEO and our social media. What would be like a #1 tip you would give to photographers that are wanting to get their SEO up in their social media realm?
Okay, #1 tip is definitely be using Pinterest. Anything you search now, anything in the world, if I search, there'll be a Pinterest board about it. So Pinterest has grown to be a really big search engine of sorts. So, but the #1 mistake I see photographers and small business owners do is actually their profiles. It doesn't have their location or even link back to their website. So go through your Instagram, go through Facebook, go through your Pinterest, your actual profile information. Sometimes it's limited, right? Sometimes it'll be like 100 characters, So make sure I have in there Myrtle Beach wedding photographer. Or, for my SEO stuff, for my SEO Pinterest account, I have SEO for photographers. So you want to get your keywords in there. And part of those keywords are usually locations. So that's kind of the #1 tip, is kind of do a social media, what's the word there? Social media review.
Almost like change your social media. Go through and
go through it. I'm like, oh my God, I only have, funny mother, lover of life. You go to Instagram and people be like nature lover. And those are cool things. And if they're related to your brand, awesome. Make sure you put at least a link back to your website. And that's the power of Pinterest, all the links that could come back to our website. Go through your Pinterest boards. Put location. You can make let's say, I do senior photography in Myrtle Beach. I'm going to have a board called Myrtle Beach Senior Pictures, right, or senior photos. And then I have a general board just about senior photography. So doing the general one and then doing the local one. And a key factor in SEO and ranking is what they call social share, which means how many times people are sharing your stuff, right? So your blog posts, your website. So making sure you have those buttons in your blog post, the social share button, so people can pin it, so they can share it on Google+, share it on the likes on Facebook, especially your website. That is a ranking factor that is often overlooked. We think about it more for blog, but it should also be on your website too.
Awesome. And that's just a good jump start for photographers. Like you said, just go through your social media, making sure those keywords and location is, like you said, in your profile, either it's Pinterest boards. Again, those same keywords we're using on our blog and our website should be on our social media, right?
Right.
Yeah. Kind of wrapping it up here. What would you? What would be the? Let's see. How do I phrase this? What would be the start that you would tell someone to start with, as far as them seeing themselves rank on like a search engine like Google? Where would you say? Now we know number one's the best, but let's say they're on page 4 or 5. Do you consider that well, or do you think they should continue to bump on up?
I definitely consider that's a start, because ideally, let's say you've done nothing. If you're within the first 10 pages, that's good. That means there's room for improvement.
Sure.
Ideally is to be on page 1, not position 1. So people, if you're at page 1, then you're good. Like, go on to your next keyword and see what else you could do, right? So, and the cool thing is that Google shows organic results, and they show like the mapped listing too if you're listed as a business with Google. So you can actually appear on page 1 in various forms. It could be a blog post, it could be your Pinterest board, it could be your website. So it's interesting also when you're showing up on page 1 as a few different things. Statistics say page 1 is the goal. I have to be completely honest. I don't mind when I'm on page 2 or even 3. Because when I'm searching for things, like if I don't find what I want on page 1, I'm going to page 2, right? So sometimes, I see this a lot with really oversaturated cities. Like, I'll tell you some cities that's really hard to rank for, because the problem with photographers is they really want like the name of the town and wedding photographers to rank. And I say no, try to rank for all these other things that will still land on your website or your blog, and it's still related to the world of weddings, for example. So LA, Atlanta, New York, Nashville, Charlotte, a lot of towns in Texas. It's going to be really hard for you to outrank people that are on page 1. When I was doing consulting, I wasn't even taking some clients from those towns. Like, some towns I was just crossing off my list because it's like almost impossible, I feel. But using those other alternative keywords, can really help you also get found in other ways. So don't be obsessed with just LA wedding photographer, right? There's Orange County, there's the venue. So I think wedding photographers really should be focusing on the venues, because people will book the venue before the photographer. So if your work is coming up for their venue, they might like your work and they might contact you, right? I know Susan Stripling does this really well on her Pinterest board. So she has a lot of Pinterest boards with the wedding venues, listed. Okay. And I lost my train of thought. Where I was going.
We were just talking about the cities that are hard to rank for.
Right. No, but before that, yeah, I was going to relate to something else, and now it's.
That's okay. As far as someone starting out that hasn't even tried to optimize or anything, let's say they started this week. How long does it generally take to them to start to see some progress of them ranking, or does that just vary?
It really varies. It varies like on the kind of thing that you're trying to rank for. So sometimes there'll be room. Let's say, like, I know this is really famous, not famous, well, this couple, they launched some online products. It was about like work, like text work. I guess librarians have to have assignments. And they made it, so it was really this niche that really there wasn't a lot of information out there, so they ranked fast. The important thing is to know that Google will search the interwebs every single day for new data. So this is why our blogs typically rank better than our website. Not always, but so that's why they're like, the more you blog, but don't just blog all the time if you're not optimizing. So it's important to blog with SEO in mind, and us photographers, we have this advantage because we could rename our images with keywords in Lightroom, and that's what I do. I batch rename them as part of my workflow, because when I blog, they already have a name in the title, and then I'm just filling out the alt text and extra information. So if you were starting, let's say, this week, I would check back after you made a lot of the changes that you needed. You ping your website to Google. If you have a show it website, it's just when you publish it fully, you go notify Google. If you don't, you could just look up how to ping a website to Google. I'll probably check back in a month and compare. And a really important thing is Googling yourself is not how to check rankings. You have to Yeah, so you use, I always forget the website is SEO Small Tools or Small Tools SEO, but if you go to keyword position or position ranker or something like that, or you could go to Google Chrome, on the top right there's a little tab that you go incognito search. Because if you're signed into your Gmail account, that's going to change the results. That's going to show you what your friends are showing. So you're like, oh my God, I'm on page 1, but you're really not. So that's what we were going for before, about being, different pages. If you're on page 4 and 5, your goal is try to like get on page 2 and 3.
Perfect.
And if you're in a very saturated town, staying there is not bad. And then just tackle the other thing, the other keyword, which I see a lot of photographers make this mistake too, is they mix the keywords. Like the blog post is about wedding and they mention the family session. Don't do that. Like that's not related. Engagement is related to wedding photography, yes. So, some photographers that service 2 different towns make one page just about the one town, another page just about the one town. So if my page has my wedding photo gallery, it's just going to be about weddings. My page about my engagement galleries is just going to be about engagement. My family, just about families. So don't mix keywords too much, and you have to make it very clear as what that page is about. And linking, having links within your blog post, or trying to have people stay longer in your blog post. There's a plugin called YARP, or just related post plugin. That's when you scroll down and you finish a blog post, and at the end it says you also might like. So trying to, keep folks on there longer. But I say check back in a month and do a monthly review and just check your position and keep an eye out for major changes.
Awesome. So just to recap, make sure they go back over their website, make sure their keywords are on at least 3 of their pages, definitely their homepage, contact, about me. That's a good start. Like you said, even revamping your social media, making sure those same keywords are consistent throughout all of their social media.
Right.
That's going to be just a good jump start, I think. And like we said, not using the keywords that are just photography lingo, thinking we were the client. That's a good jump start just for anyone starting out.
Yeah.
And then as far as resources, if they want to continue down this SEO route and want to learn more, tell us a little bit about what you do with that.
Sure, awesome. So I do give a lot of free advice and tips on the SEO for Photographers Google Plus group. Basically, it's like I'm your little coach there telling you exactly what to do for that. It's like every 2 weeks. It's supposed to be weekly, but it's every 2 weeks.
Sure.
But it's Get Found with Fuse, Fuse.com. I also have some products there you could purchase, and I have some blog posts giving ideas, some videos from my YouTube channel, also offering more advice and so forth.
Awesome. I'm going to include those links in this blog post so they can jump through. So, well, thank you so much for your time today and helping us get started with SEO and tips and
Can I share one more that I think is really important to talk about? Sorry. Being listed on Google. You definitely want your business listed on Google. If you go to, submit, how do I submit my business to, it's really google.com, I think, /business. And if you work from home, you could technically hide your address. But it's very important to get listed there, and get reviews on Google will help your local SEO. So I don't send my clients to Wedding Wire anymore. I send them to Google. So one challenge for you is get at least 5 reviews on your Google account. And that's after you're listed. You could send people to maps.google.com, and they just type in your business in maps. Your business comes up, and they'll see like a few ratings, and then you just click on it and say, rate my business. So ask your past clients to do that. Even if clients already reviewed you before somewhere else, that is really important. That is a major factor right now in local SEO.
Do the clients have to have their own Google account, or can they just go in?
No, I think they can just go in. No, you don't have to be signed into Google Plus or anything.
Okay.
It's like your Google Plus listing, but you don't have to be signed in. No.
Awesome. Good. So that's everyone's homework. Then anybody can do that, even if you don't have a blog. You can still revamp social media, work on your Pinterest, get registered or whatever, listed with Google. So that's good. It
might sound overwhelming, but just take it step by step, and that's why I really love the group, because I give just one simple thing to do, and that it's just very doable. So if you want to start, if you want to get in the group, and start, we're up to, I think, 22 challenges, so there's a lot more information there.
Awesome. And like you said, don't get overwhelmed. You just do one little each week or every couple of weeks, and then before you know it.
Or else you're never going to do it, right? It's like that, like,
yes.
I got to do this, and you never get to it. So I'm guilty of that.
It becomes overwhelming, especially when it's something you don't fully understand. So.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to add all these links and all of this extra information in the blog post for these awesome followers. And thank you so much for your time. And
next time I'm going to interview you.
Awesome. And so we're going to all go check it out.
Okay.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Erin.
Bye, Feuza.